Hello, welcome to Tips on Teens. This is Kent Toussaint, licensed marriage and family therapist, coming to you live on Facebook every Wednesday at noon to answer your parenting questions. And let's jump into today's question. My teenager cannot focus on her homework. She's very smart and is very capable of being an A student, but there are always things to distract her. Sometimes she does the work, but won't turn it in. This is causing big arguments between the two of us and arguments between me and my wife. She is ADHD and takes medication, but we don't want to give her a booster after school because we want her to eat and the medication suppresses her appetite. How do we help her do well in school without the arguing? So let's jump right in. Let's start with the medication part. So full transparency, I am not a medical doctor. I cannot give you medical advice. So the first thing you want to do is talk to your psychiatrist or your pediatrician or whoever is prescribing this medication and really collaborate with that medical professional to make sure that your child is getting the right medication for the right diagnosis. And if the symptoms are not being addressed to your satisfaction, keep talking to that doctor. If you need a second opinion, then get a second opinion. But finding that right cocktail of medication that works right for your kid, you ask doctors, it can take some time to figure out what that is. Secondly, I totally get the concern about giving your kid too much medication. I hear that a lot from parents, especially with a lot of medications for ADHD do suppress appetite. And you want your kid to eat, especially if your kid's an athlete and active, you want your kid to have nutrition. I get that. And so giving your kid a booster at 3:30 or 4 o'clock may mean that, your kid doesn't eat all day. And that's a real legitimate concern. Again, it's something important to talk to your doctor. So let's assume, for argument's sake, you're deciding not to give that booster to your kid. So how do we help your kid focus on doing the homework she needs to do so she can achieve the way she wants to? First thing is when you pick her up or when she gets home, no screens. Get her off the phone, get her off the iPad, get her off the console. And the reason is that starts stimulating the brain in a way that nothing else can. And she'll start on the phone to say, just give me a half hour. That half hour turns into a 3-hour fight trying to get her off the phone. And even if your kid says, okay, I'll give it up, it's really hard for kids to transition here off the phone. They may not have the phone anymore, but they're thinking about all the things that they just were doing, what they're missing now. So I really encourage you to find a way to delay screens until homework is done. Secondly, she probably needs to eat because she probably hasn't eaten all day. So make sure she gets a healthy snack. And thirdly, a lot of the kids that I work with, they really struggle with, their brain is going everywhere and they need to stimulate their brain and their body. So a lot of kids, what I find is helpful, if they go in the front yard and shoot hoops for a half hour or go for a run or a bike ride or a swim or Pilates or, it doesn't really matter what they do. It's a matter that they get their body physically moving, because a lot of times ADHD kids are physical kids. And the more they're in tune with their physical body, the more grounded they feel. So get them some physical exercise, something fun, something they enjoy. Don't mandate they go to the gym if they hate going to the gym. Let them do something fun. If it's racquetball, if it's basketball, if it's playing tag, I don't know what that is. Every kid's gonna be different, but make sure they have that physical outlet after school before homework. And then they may find that they are able to focus a little better. Also, a lot of kids will focus better with some music in the background. And you may think that's distracting, but for an ADHD kid and just teenagers in general, having background noise helps them focus, because being totally quiet is too quiet. So it's really important that we set up an environment for your kid to succeed. Also, maybe not have your child do her homework in her room, maybe in the kitchen or the dining room, somewhere where you may be around, just not to hover, but just to be around enough to monitor. So it's not easy to just jump on Facebook, or your kid's not on Facebook, but Snapchat or something else like that. Make sure if she has to have a computer that you can see the screen. If you're in there chopping up vegetables for dinner that night, you can just look over and look at the screen, make sure she's not on YouTube or something like that. Excuse me. So it's really important that we set her up to succeed. Another point in this is that there's a lot of arguments between the parents about this. And that is something that your daughter is not in control of, but she will accept all the blame for. So it's really important that if you and your spouse are disagreeing with how to handle the situation or what's going on, that you do that in a respectful way. So if she does hear it, it's done in a respectful way, but more importantly, just out of her earshot. And if you think, oh, she can't hear us, we're in the other room, Kids can hear everything you don't want them to hear. Everything. Anything you want them to hear, like, hey, go pick up your socks, they don't hear that. But they hear the argument down the hall in the other room with the door closed and the music on. That's what they'll hear. So it's really important that you find a way to talk about these things with your spouse in a respectful way, in a way that is outside of your daughter's awareness. So that's the big thing on this. Obviously, we can keep talking about this. There's hours of information about this, but we can only do so much on a Facebook Live Tips on Teens video. If you like these videos and you want to hear more about them, you want to comment more about them, join our Facebook group at Tips on Teens. If you want more information about us, you can go to our website, teentherapycenter.com, and we'll be here next week at 12 o'clock on Wednesday answering your parenting questions. Thanks again. This is Ken Toussaint, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.